Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Radio Theater. I'm your host, and I'm here with you tonight. Tonight, we're returning to the workplace, but not the version we show in performance reviews. The real version. The kind where you stare out a window wondering if this is all there is. The kind where you sit in a conference room for an hour and leave knowing absolutely nothing changed. The quiet moments of longing, the loud moments of absurdity, the dreams we carry secretly, and the meetings that go nowhere. Tonight we have two stories about workplace realities, one about what we see through an office window, and one about a meeting that accomplished nothing. So settle in and let's listen together. Our first story tonight is called The Office Window. Dear Radio Theater, I work as a data analyst at a financial services company in Chicago. I've been here for 5 years. This is a story about a window. My window specifically, the one at my desk on the 14th floor. Let me explain why it matters. When I started this job 5 years ago, I didn't have a window. I sat in a cubicle in the middle of the floor, literally the geographic center of the office. Maximum distance from any natural light. Fluorescent lights overhead, humming constantly. Gray fabric walls on 3 sides of my cubicle. The 4th side open to a walkway where people pass by all day. My view was other people's cubicles, the backs of computer monitors, occasionally someone's lunch bag on top of a filing cabinet. That was it. No windows, no natural light, no view of the outside world. I told myself it was fine. I told myself windows were overrated anyway. Who needs to see outside when you're focused on work, right? Who needs natural light when you have perfectly functional fluorescent bulbs? Besides, I was lucky to have this job. Good salary, stable company, room for advancement. A window seemed like a silly thing to care about, but I did care, more than I wanted to admit. I'd walk past the people who had window desks and feel envious. They could see the sky. They could tell if it was sunny or cloudy without checking their phone. They could watch the world outside while they worked. I had gray fabric and fluorescent lights. For 3 years, that was my reality. 3 years of artificial light and interior views. 3 years of losing track of time because every hour looked the same. 3 years of leaving the office at 6 p.m. and being surprised by what the weather had done that day. Then something changed. A senior analyst named Robert left the company. He'd been here 12 years, had a desk by the window. Not just any window, but a corner position. 2 walls of glass, views in 2 directions. Prime real estate in office terms. When Robert gave his notice, there was immediate speculation about who would get his desk. Office politics around desk assignments are surprisingly intense. People jockeying for position, making cases for why they deserved it. But my manager, Carol, just asked me one day, "Do you want Robert's desk?" I was surprised she asked me. I wasn't the most senior person. I wasn't the loudest or most political. I was just someone who did good work quietly. "Yes," I said immediately. "Absolutely yes." She smiled like she knew something I didn't. "Good. It's yours. Move over whenever you're ready." I moved that same day. I didn't even wait until the end of the workday. I packed up my cubicle during lunch, carried everything over in 2 trips. My new desk was beautiful. Real wood, not the laminate of the cubicles. An actual office chair that adjusted properly, space for 2 monitors side by side, and windows, 2 entire walls of windows. The desk faced east and south, east toward the lake, south toward the rest of the city. I could see everything. I sat down in that chair and just stared for a full minute. Outside was a world I'd forgotten about during work hours. Sky, buildings, streets, people, movement and light and life. I didn't realize how much I'd missed it until I had it back. That first week, I couldn't stop looking out. I'd try to focus on work, but my eyes kept drifting to the windows. In the morning, I got direct sunlight. Real, warm, natural sunlight streaming across my desk. I could feel it on my arms while I typed. I could see the way it created patterns on my desk as it moved through the day. I'd lived in artificial light for so long, I'd forgotten what real light felt like. From the 14th floor, Chicago spread out before me. I could see the street below, Michigan Avenue, with its constant flow of traffic. I could see people walking on the sidewalks. From up here, they looked small, almost like toys. But I could track them, watch them move through their days. I could see the building directly across the street. Another office building similar to ours. Rows and rows of windows, each one a little rectangle of someone else's work life. I started recognizing patterns. Certain offices had lights on early, before 7 a.m. Others didn't turn on until 9 or later. Some stayed lit late into the evening. Others went dark promptly at 5. I could see people moving around in some of the offices, sitting at desks, standing by windows, walking through hallways. Other people, living other versions of office life. 2 blocks south, I could see a small park. Just a city block of green space with trees and benches and walking paths. From up here, it looked peaceful, like an oasis in the middle of all the concrete and glass. I could see people sitting on benches during lunch, joggers running the perimeter path, dogs being walked, and on really clear days, when the air was just right, I could see the lake. Just a sliver of blue on the eastern horizon. Lake Michigan, vast and blue and beautiful. A reminder that Chicago sits on the edge of something immense. I'd lived in this city for 8 years and somehow forgotten the lake was there. At first, I tried not to look out the window too much. I told myself I needed to focus on work, that looking out the window was slacking off, that I'd gotten this desk as a privilege, not to waste time daydreaming. My work hadn't changed just because my location had. I still had the same spreadsheets to analyze, the same reports to generate, the same meetings to attend, the same deliverables and deadlines, but having the window made it harder to focus, because now I could see there was a world outside these tasks. A world that was happening right now while I was analyzing quarterly revenue trends. People were walking dogs while I was in spreadsheets. Clouds were moving while I was in meetings. Sunlight was shifting while I was writing emails. Life was happening and I was inside watching numbers. In the afternoons, especially when I'd been working for hours, my eyes would drift to the window. I'd find myself just staring out, watching people cross the street at the light. Watching pigeons land on the ledge of the building across the way, watching the shadows change as the sun moved. It was meditative almost, a break from my brain from the constant analysis. But it also made me restless, because when I looked out that window, I remembered things I used to want, things I used to dream about. Before I became a data analyst with a good salary and a desk by a window, I wanted to be a photographer. That was the dream in college, the thing that made me excited. I was an economics major because that's what my parents wanted. Something practical, something that led to a real job. But I took photography classes on the side. Every elective I could, I used for photography. Introduction to photography, digital photography, black and white film, photojournalism, portrait photography. I took them all. I spent hours in the dark room developing black and white film. There was something almost magical about it, watching an image slowly appear in the developer bath, seeing a moment you'd captured come to life on paper. I loved the technical side, learning about aperture and shutter speed and ISO, but I loved the artistic side even more, the way a good photograph could capture not just what something looked like, but what it felt like, the way light and shadow could convey emotion, the way a single frozen moment could tell an entire story. My photography professor, Professor Chen, said I had a good eye. She said I saw things other people missed. The small moments, the in-between moments, not the obvious big dramatic stuff, but the quiet, meaningful stuff. She encouraged me to pursue it seriously, to consider applying to MFA programs after graduation, to think about photography as a career, not just a hobby. I was tempted. For a few months senior year, I really considered it. But then reality set in. How do you make a living as a photographer? How do you pay rent in a city like Chicago on art sales? How do you handle student loans on an uncertain income? My parents were clear about their expectations. They'd paid for college on the condition that I'd get a real job, something stable, something professional. Not an artist, not a dreamer. So when I got a job offer from this financial services company as a data analyst, I took it. Good salary, full benefits, 401k match, clear advancement path. Everything a practical person should want. My parents were thrilled. My friend said I was smart to be realistic. Professor Chen looked disappointed but understanding. You can always do photography on the side, she said. And I believed her. I thought I'd spend my weekdays doing data analysis and my weekends doing photography. I thought I'd keep both worlds alive. I packed up my camera gear carefully when I moved to Chicago for the job. My Canon with 3 lenses, my tripod, my external flash. All the accessories I'd accumulated through college. I set it all up in my apartment, dedicated a corner to it. For the first few months, I did use it. I'd go out on Saturday mornings, walk around the city taking photos, the architecture, the people, the light on the lake. I'd come home and edit them on my laptop. I even posted some online, started building a small following, but gradually weekends became something else. They became time to catch up on laundry and groceries, time to clean the apartment and pay bills, time to recover from the exhaustion of the work week. By Sunday evening, I'd be thinking about Monday morning, preparing mentally for another week of spreadsheets and meetings. The camera started sitting unused. One weekend became 2, became a month, became several months. Eventually, I packed it away in the closet, told myself I'd get back to it when things calmed down at work, when I had more energy, more time, more space in my life. But things never calmed down. Work filled whatever space I gave it. There was always another project, another deadline, another priority. 5 years passed. 5 years of data analysis and spreadsheets and quarterly reports. 5 years of practical, stable, sensible work. 5 years of my camera sitting in a closet. And then I got the desk with the window. And suddenly I started noticing things again. The way morning light hit the building across the street, creating these dramatic angular shadows. The patterns of people crossing at the intersection below during rush hour. This choreographed dance of pedestrians and cars. The lone tree in the park, how it changed through the seasons. Bare branches in winter, green buds in spring, full leaves in summer, golden colors in fall. I'd see these things through my window and my fingers would itch. That old familiar feeling. The urge to grab a camera and capture what I was seeing. To frame it just right, to wait for the perfect moment. To preserve something beautiful or interesting or meaningful. But I didn't act on it. I just looked. Then I'd turn back to my spreadsheet. Back to numbers and charts and analysis. Back to the practical, sensible work I'd chosen. There's a woman who sits 2 desks away from me. Her name is Linda. She's been with the company for 10 years, twice as long as me. She's good at her job, really good. Efficient, reliable, detail-oriented. The kind of person management loves because she never causes problems. But she always looks tired. Not just physically tired, though she is that too, but tired in a deeper way. Like she's been running on autopilot for so long she's forgotten there are other settings. One day, a few weeks after I got the window desk, we were both working late. Most people had gone home, but we were finishing up projects. I was by my window watching the sunset over the city. Linda came over to ask me a question about a report. She saw me looking out and paused. "Nice view," she said. "It is," I agreed. She stood there for a moment, looking out with me. Then she said, "I used to have a desk by a window. Years ago. What happened? Reorganization. They moved me inside." She shrugged. "It's fine, though. Windows are overrated." But the way she said it, I could tell she didn't believe it. "Do you like this work?" I asked suddenly. She looked surprised by the question. "What do you mean?" "I mean, do you enjoy it, data analysis, reports, all of it? Do you like it?" She thought about it for a longer time than I expected. "It's fine," she finally said. "Just fine? It pays the bills. It's stable. That's what matters, right? But do you like it?" She looked at me like I was asking something absurd. "I don't think about it that way. It's just what I do. It's my job." "But what did you want to do before this?" Another long pause. "I wanted to teach," she said quietly. "Elementary school. I loved working with kids." "Why didn't you?" "Couldn't afford the education courses and certification on top of my degree. And teachers don't make much money. So I got a business degree instead, got this job." That was 10 years ago. She said it matter-of-factly, without emotion, like she was describing someone else's life. Do you ever think about going back to it? She laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. I'm 43. I have a mortgage and retirement savings and a life built around this job. I can't just start over. Then she looked at me directly. How old are you? 28? 29? 27. You're still young enough to change course if you want to. Don't wait until you're my age. She said it kindly, but it felt like a warning. Then she went back to her desk and we didn't talk about it again. But I thought about that conversation a lot. I thought about it every time I looked out my window. Was I becoming Linda? Someone who stopped thinking about whether they liked their life? Someone who just went through motions because it paid the bills? Someone who gave up on dreams because they seemed impractical? I didn't want to be that person. But I also didn't know how not to be. There's a man I started noticing in the park below. He shows up most days around 11:30. He carries a canvas bag and an easel. He sets up right there in the park and paints. Sometimes he paints the skyline visible from that angle. Sometimes he paints the trees. Sometimes he paints people sitting on benches. I started watching for him during my late morning work lull. I'd be deep in a spreadsheet, numbers starting to blur together. I'd look up and see him setting up his easel, and I'd watch him work for a few minutes. Even from 14 floors up, I could see his process. The way he'd step back from the canvas to assess it. The way he'd mix colors on his palette. The way he'd lose himself completely in the painting. Time would pass and he wouldn't notice. People would walk by and he wouldn't look up. He was fully absorbed in what he was doing, and I felt jealous. Not bitter, resentful jealous. More like longing jealous. He was doing what he loved. Right there, in the middle of a Monday morning. Not waiting for the weekend. Not waiting for retirement. Not waiting for someday when circumstances were perfect. Just doing it. While I was inside calculating year-over-year growth percentages, I wondered about him constantly. Was painting his job or his hobby? How did he afford to spend weekday mornings in the park? Did he worry about money, about stability, about practical concerns? Or had he decided those things mattered less than doing what he loved? One day I decided to find out. It was a Tuesday in late October, beautiful fall day. I could see from my window that the weather was perfect. Blue sky, golden light, leaves turning colors. The painter was in the park setting up his easel. And I thought, why am I watching from up here? I took my lunch break early, 11:30 instead of noon. I took the elevator down 14 floors, walked out of the building across Michigan Avenue into the park. It felt strange being down there. I'd looked at this park from above hundreds of times, but I hadn't actually been in it in months, maybe a year. The painter was there, working on a canvas. He looked older up close, maybe 60. Gray hair, paint-stained hands, comfortable old clothes. His easel was set up facing the skyline. His canvas showed a half-finished painting of buildings against sky. I stood nearby for a few minutes watching. He glanced over and nodded at me, friendly but focused on his work. "Your paintings are beautiful," I finally said. He looked up and smiled. "Thank you. That's kind of you to say. Do you come here every day?" "Most days, when the weather's good. Been doing this for about 3 years now." "Do you sell them?" I asked. He shrugged. "Sometimes. There's a small gallery on the north side that takes a few, and I have a website where people can buy prints. But honestly, that's not really why I do it." "Why do you do it then?" He looked at me like I'd asked the most obvious question in the world. "Because I love it," he said simply. "Because it makes me feel alive. Because when I'm painting, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just here in this moment doing this thing I love." He went back to his canvas, added a few strokes. "I worked in insurance for 35 years, he said, not looking at me. "Hated almost every day of it. But it paid well, had good benefits. I told myself I'd paint when I retired. And did you? Retired 3 years ago. Started coming to this park. And you know what I realized?" "What?" "I should have been doing this all along. Not instead of the insurance job necessarily, but alongside it. Lunch breaks, weekends, early mornings. I could have been painting for 35 years. Instead, I waited. And now I'm 62 years old, finally doing what I love." He looked at me directly then. You're young. Don't make my mistake. Don't wait for eventually. Eventually might come too late. I walked back to my office thinking about those words. Don't wait for eventually. Eventually might come too late. I rode the elevator back up to the 14th floor, walked back to my desk by the window, sat down and stared at my spreadsheet. But I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about the painter, about Linda saying she couldn't start over at 43, about myself at 27, already 5 years into waiting for eventually. That evening I went home and opened my closet. My camera bag was in the back, buried under winter coats. I pulled it out. The bag was dusty. When I opened it, everything was still there. My Canon, my lenses, my accessories, all exactly as I'd packed them away. The camera battery was dead. I plugged it in to charge overnight. The next morning, I brought my camera to work. I didn't tell anyone. I just put it in my bag like it was the most normal thing in the world. At lunch, I didn't eat at my desk like usual. I took my camera and went outside. I walked around the block, just one block, 12 minutes total, and I took photographs. The way sunlight hit the corner of a building. A businessman checking his phone at a crosswalk, his face lit from below by the screen. Pigeons gathered around someone eating lunch on a bench. The pattern of windows on the building across from ours. Dozens of rectangles, some lit, some dark. The autumn leaves on that tree in the park, backlit and golden. It felt awkward at first, self-conscious, like I was doing something wrong, something unprofessional, like people were watching me and judging. Who brings a camera to lunch? Who takes photos on their break? But after a few minutes, I stopped caring. I was just doing what I loved, seeing light and shadow and composition, finding beauty in ordinary moments, capturing pieces of the world. When I got back to my desk, I felt different, lighter, more awake, more like myself. I looked at my afternoon spreadsheets with fresh eyes. The work itself hadn't changed, but I had changed, just a little. I started doing this regularly. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'd take my camera at lunch. Just 12 minutes, just one block. But those 12 minutes became the part of my day I looked forward to most. My coworkers noticed eventually. What are you taking pictures of? Someone asked. Just the city, I said. For what? For myself. They looked confused. Like the idea of doing something purely for yourself was strange. Like there had to be a purpose, a goal, a monetization strategy. But I kept doing it anyway. I started posting some photos online. Just a personal Instagram account, nothing professional. I didn't even tell anyone about it at first. But people started finding it and following. Former classmates from college. A few coworkers. Random people who liked city photography. Within a month, I had a few hundred followers. They'd leave comments on my photos. This is gorgeous. You really captured the light. I walk past this building every day and never noticed how beautiful it is. Your photos make me see Chicago differently. That last one stuck with me. Your photos make me see differently. That's what good photography does. It doesn't just show what's there. It shows what you might miss if you're not paying attention. It reminds people to look. Within 3 months, I had over 1,000 followers. Some local Chicago photography accounts started featuring my work. A few people asked about buying prints. I set up a small online shop, nothing fancy. Made 2 sales the first month. It was maybe $100 total. Enough for a nice dinner out. Not enough to pay rent. But that wasn't the point. The point was I was doing it. I was photographing again. Not waiting for eventually. Not saving it for retirement. Not telling myself someday when I have more time. Doing it now in the life I actually have. I'm not quitting my job. I'm not becoming a full-time photographer. That's not realistic, and I've made peace with that. I still need stable income and health insurance. I still have student loans and rent and practical concerns. The data analyst job provides that, and I'm grateful for it. But I'm also not abandoning what I love. I'm not putting my camera back in the closet. I'm not waiting 35 years like the painter in the park. I'm doing both. Data analyst by day, photographer at lunch and on weekends. Practical and passionate. Stable and creative. They're not opposites. They're just different parts of being human. The window helped me see this. Every day I look out at that view. I see the city, the sky, the light changing. I see the painter in the park doing what he loves. I see other people in other offices, probably dreaming of other things. And I remember that I get to choose, not between practicality and passion, but to have both, in whatever way fits into my real life. 12-minute lunch breaks, Saturday mornings, Sunday afternoons when I have energy, small pieces of time that add up to something meaningful. 6 months ago, I had my first gallery showing. Just a small coffee shop gallery, not a real gallery. But they had space on their walls and they liked my city photography. I brought in 12 frame prints, sold 3 of them, made enough to cover the framing costs with a little profit. My parents came to the opening. They looked uncomfortable the whole time. This wasn't what they'd paid for college for. But when they saw the photos hung on the wall, saw people stopping to look at them, saw the prices with sold stickers, my mom hugged me. "These are really good," she said quietly. Not, "I'm proud of you." Not, "You should do this full time." Just, "These are really good." And that felt like enough. Professor Chen came too. I'd emailed her about it, not expecting her to drive 2 hours from the university. But she came. She looked at each photo carefully. Then she looked at me. "You're still doing it," she said. "I am. I'm glad. I was worried you'd given up." "I almost did. For 5 years I almost did. But you didn't. That's what matters." She was right. What matters isn't the path you take. It's that you keep walking, even if slowly, even if just 12 minutes at a time. I still sit at my desk by the window. I still analyze data and create reports and attend meetings. I still do the practical, stable work that pays my bills. But now when I look out that window, I don't just wonder. I don't just watch other people living. I act. I take my camera and I go outside and I capture what I see. And piece by piece, photo by photo, 12-minute break by 12-minute break, I'm living the life I want, not the life I dreamed about in college, where I'm a famous photographer traveling the world, but a real life where I'm a data analyst who also photographs, where I'm practical and creative, where I've figured out how to keep both parts of myself alive. And honestly, this feels better than the dream, because this is real, this is sustainable, this is mine. I'm writing this letter for anyone who sits by a window, anyone who looks out and wonders about other lives, other choices, anyone who put their dreams in a closet years ago because they needed to be practical. You don't have to choose between practical and passionate. You don't have to quit your job and take a huge risk. You don't have to wait for retirement to do what you love. You can do both. You can start now. In small ways, in stolen moments, in 12-minute lunch breaks, bring your dream out of the closet, dust it off, make a little space for it in your real life. Not eventually, not someday. Now, even if it's small, even if it's just looking out your window and remembering what you loved, even if it's just one tiny action, that's how it begins. With a window, with remembering, with choosing not to wait. Sincerely, a data analyst who became a photographer again, 12 minutes at a time. That was our first story tonight. The office window. A letter from someone who stopped waiting for eventually. Windows are interesting things, aren't they? They let light in. They let us see out. But there are also barriers between where we are and where we might want to be. Our letter writer spent years looking through that window, watching life happen outside while they stayed inside with spreadsheets, watching other people do what they loved while they did what was practical. Until one day they stopped just watching. They didn't quit their job. They didn't make a dramatic change. They just took 12 minutes at lunch, brought their camera out of the closet, started doing what they loved in small, sustainable ways. And that's the thing about dreams that we often forget. We think they have to be all or nothing. We think if we can't do it full-time, professionally, perfectly, then we shouldn't do it at all. But that's not true. You can be practical and passionate. You can pay bills and pursue dreams. You can be a data analyst and a photographer, a teacher and a painter, an accountant and a musician, They're not opposites. They're just different parts of being fully human. If you're someone who put a dream away because it wasn't practical, maybe it's time to dust it off. Not to build your whole life around it, just to give it 12 minutes. Just to remember what it felt like to do what you love. That's all it takes to start. Now let's shift to something completely different. Our second story is about a meeting, the kind we've all sat through. The kind that accomplishes absolutely nothing but takes an hour anyway. Sometimes work makes us dream of other possibilities. Other times, work makes us sit in windowless conference rooms, pretending to pay attention, pretending it matters, wondering if anyone else realizes nothing ever changes. Spoiler alert, everyone realizes. Nobody says it out loud. Our second story tonight is called The Meeting That Changed Nothing. Dear Radio Theater, I work in operations at a tech company in Seattle. I've been here for 4 years. This is a story about a meeting, the meeting that was supposed to change nothing. But on one particular Monday, something unexpected happened. Let me start from the beginning. We have a weekly meeting every Monday at 10 a.m. The weekly operations sync, we call it. Though I'm not sure what we're syncing. It's been happening for as long as I've worked here. Probably longer. Every Monday, same time, same conference room, same people. And every Monday, absolutely nothing changes. The meeting is scheduled for 1 hour. It always runs over. There are 12 people invited. 8 usually show up. The other 4 either send apologies or just ghost. We gather in conference room B. Windowless, beige walls, long table, 12 chairs. The air conditioning is always too cold. Our manager, Derek, runs the meeting. Derek is in his late 40s, been here 8 years. He loves meetings. He genuinely believes they're productive and valuable. He starts every meeting the same way. All right, team, let's sync up and make sure we're all aligned. Sync up. Aligned. Derek's favorite words. I started counting how many times he says them. My record is 17 syncs and 23 aligns in a single meeting. The agenda never changes. Point 1, review action items from last week. Point 2, department updates. Point 3, upcoming priorities. Point 4, open discussion. Every single week, same 4 points. Let me walk you through what happens with each one. Point 1, review action items. Derek pulls up last week's list. These are tasks assigned to people, things that were supposed to get done. He goes through them one by one. Sarah, you were going to follow up with engineering about the deployment timeline. Sarah, multitasking on her laptop, looks up. Oh, I sent an email but haven't heard back yet. Okay, let's keep that on the list for this week. Same task, push to next week. Mike, you were going to review the documentation. Mike, who definitely didn't review anything, says, still working on it. Should have something by end of week. Great, let's keep that on the list. Same task, push to next week. This continues for 20 minutes. Maybe 1 out of 10 action items actually got completed. The rest get pushed to next week's list, which means next week starts with an even longer list. And most of those will get pushed to the week after. It's action items all the way down. Point 2, department updates. Each person shares what they're working on. Sarah goes first because her name is first alphabetically. She talks for 7 minutes about a project nobody understands. She uses acronyms constantly. TPS, OKRs, KPIs, ROI, EPI, SDK. Everyone nods like they're following along. Nobody is following along. Derek is looking at his phone under the table. When Sarah finishes, Derek says, Great, thanks for that update. Let's make sure we're staying aligned with the broader team goals. Nobody knows what the broader team goals are. We had a meeting about goals in January. It's now October. Mike goes next. His updates are always vague. Working on some improvements to the system. Making good progress. What system? What improvements? Nobody asks. Derek says, sounds good. Keep me posted. Jennifer goes next. Jennifer is the only person who comes prepared. She has slides, data, specific asks, clear timelines. She presents for 5 minutes, professional and concise. Derek says, this is great, Jennifer. Really great work. Let's make sure we're socializing this with the stakeholders. Jennifer says, I already sent it to all the stakeholders last week and got approval. Perfect. Let's make sure we're keeping them in the loop. Jennifer nods, probably wondering why she bothered preparing. Then there's Tom. Tom has been here 12 years. He's seen 3 reorganizations, 4 directors, countless process changes. He has zero energy left. When it's his turn, he says, nothing new to report. Every single week, nothing new to report. Derek tries to push him. Nothing at all. Any blockers? Nope. All good. Derek has given up trying to get more out of Tom. This continues around the table. By the time we've gone around, 45 minutes have passed. We're 15 minutes over the scheduled end time, but we're only on point 2 of 4. Point 3, upcoming priorities. This is where Derek talks about what's coming. Usually there's some new initiative from leadership, some new priority handed down from above. Leadership loves new priorities, without removing any old priorities. So our priority list just grows until priority means nothing. Derek explains with enthusiasm. So leadership has identified customer experience as a key focus area for Q4. Tom points out that customer experience was also the focus for Q3, Q2, and Q1. Derek says, right, but now we're really prioritizing it. This time it's different. It's never different. Someone asks, what does this mean for our current projects? Derek says, great question. Let's stay aligned with leadership on that and circle back. Circle back means, I don't know and I'm not going to find out. Someone asks, do we have additional resources? Derek says, we'll need to work with what we have and find efficiencies. Translation, no new resources, figure it out. Derek assigns someone to own the new initiative. Usually whoever was too slow to come up with an excuse. This week it's Sarah. Sarah already owns 17 other things, but she nods and says she'll own this too. This has been the pattern every single week for 4 years. But this particular Monday was different. We were at point 4 open discussion. It's now 11:45. We've been here an hour and 45 minutes. Everyone is exhausted and wants to leave. Nobody has discussion topics, except Paul. Paul raises his hand. I just want to flag that the equipment request process is really cumbersome. It took me 3 weeks to get a new monitor. Everyone nods in agreement. Derek says, that's great feedback, Paul. Let's take that offline and sync up with IT. Take it offline. Sync up. Code for I'm not dealing with this. Paul says, I can send you the details. Derek says, great, yeah, send me an email and we'll circle back. And that's when something inside me snapped. I don't know why this moment specifically. Maybe it was the 4 years of accumulated frustration. Maybe it was the 52 person hours we'd collectively wasted. Maybe it was watching Derek say, circle back one more time. But I heard myself speaking. We're not going to circle back. Everyone looked at me. Derek paused. What? We're not going to circle back on Paul's equipment issue. We never circle back. That's not a real thing we do. The room went silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. Derek looked confused. I'm not sure I understand. Paul is going to send you an email, I continued. You're not going to read it. Or you'll read it and not respond. The equipment process won't change. In 3 months, someone else will bring up the same complaint, and you'll say the exact same thing. Circle back. Sync up. Take it offline. None of those phrases mean anything. Sarah's eyes went wide. Mike stopped multitasking and actually looked up from his laptop. Jennifer had a tiny smile on her face. Tom leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, watching. Derek's face was turning red. I think you're being unfair. Am I? I pulled up my laptop. I've been tracking this meeting for 6 months. 26 meetings. 52 collective person hours. We've made 3 actual decisions that led to action. 3. I turned my screen around to show them the spreadsheet. Dates, topics discussed, outcomes. Most of the outcome column was blank. Derek looked flustered. This meeting serves purposes beyond just decisions. Communication, team cohesion. We don't communicate. We perform communication. Sarah talks for 7 minutes using acronyms nobody understands. Mike says making progress without defining what that means. Jennifer actually prepares and you don't listen. Tom is checked out completely and nobody blames him because this is pointless. Tom snorted. Actually snorted. It might have been the first genuine reaction I'd ever seen from him in a meeting. Derek stood up. I think we should continue this conversation privately. Why? So we can have another meeting about the meeting? Add it to the list of action items that won't get done. You're being disrespectful. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Sarah spoke up quietly. They're not wrong, though. Everyone looked at her. Sarah, who always went first, who always talked too long, who always used corporate speak. I know I talk too much in these meetings, she continued. I know half of you tune out when I start. I do it because it feels like I'm supposed to. Like if I don't give a detailed update, it means I'm not working hard enough. But honestly, most of what I share could be an email or a bullet point in a shared document. Mike nodded slowly. Same. I'm vague on purpose because I don't want Derek assigning me more work. If I'm specific about having capacity, suddenly I'm owning 3 more things. Jennifer laughed. Actually laughed out loud. I prepare slides every week, she said. Spend 2 hours on them. And every week I wonder why I bother because nobody's paying attention. Derek is on his phone. Half of you are answering emails. I could present nursery rhymes and get the same response. Derek looked around the table like he was losing control, which he was. This is not productive. Exactly, I said. This is not productive. That's the whole point. None of this is productive. We sit here for 2 hours every week and accomplish nothing. And we all know it. We've always known it. We just don't say it out loud. Paul spoke up. I've raised the equipment issue 4 times. In 4 different meetings. Nothing has changed. But I keep raising it because, I don't know. What else am I supposed to do? Stop coming to the meeting, Tom said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. Tom, who never spoke unless directly asked. Tom, who'd been here 12 years. Tom, who'd perfected the art of saying nothing. I stopped coming mentally about 8 years ago, he continued. I show up physically because I have to. But mentally, I'm not here. I'm thinking about my grocery list. Or what I'm making for dinner. Or literally anything other than this meeting. Because this meeting has never in 12 years led to anything meaningful. Derek sat down heavily. He looked defeated. Not angry anymore, just tired. So what do you want me to do? He asked quietly. Cancel the meeting? Yes, I said. Actually, yes, Sarah said. Absolutely yes, Jennifer said. God, yes, Mike said. Even Paul nodded. Derek looked at Tom. Tom? Tom shrugged. I've wanted this meeting canceled for a decade, but nobody ever asked. Derek was quiet for a long time. We all sat there in conference room B, the air conditioning humming, the clock showing 12:15, 2 hours and 15 minutes into a 1-hour meeting. Finally, Derek spoke. The company expects us to have regular team meetings. It's in the handbook. Management best practices. Then make it useful, Jennifer said. Or make it shorter. Or make it optional. But stop pretending this current format works. Derek nodded slowly. Okay, what would useful look like? And that's when something unexpected happened. We actually had a conversation. Not a meeting, a conversation. Jennifer suggested we only meet when there's an actual decision to make. Sarah said most updates could go in a shared document we all review asynchronously. Mike suggested if we do meet, it should be 30 minutes max with a strict agenda. Paul said we should only include people who actually need to be there for each topic. Tom said we should have a no bullshit rule where people say what they actually mean. I suggested we track outcomes, not just attendance. If meetings don't lead to action, we stop having them. Derek listened to all of it. Actually listened, not just waited for his turn to talk. When we finished, he said, okay, let's try it. We'll cancel the regular Monday meeting. Instead, I'll send out a weekly update document. If something requires discussion, I'll schedule a focused meeting with only the relevant people. Maximum 30 minutes, and we'll track whether it leads to actual outcomes. Really? Sarah looked shocked. Really? You're right. This hasn't been working. I didn't know how to change it without admitting it wasn't working. So we're done? Mike asked. Like right now? We're done. Everyone started packing up immediately. Like the room might change its mind if we didn't escape fast enough. As people filed out, Jennifer stopped next to my chair. That was brave, she said quietly. Or stupid. Maybe both, but someone needed to say it. Tom stopped too. In 12 years, that was the first useful thing that's happened in Conference Room B. When everyone left, just Derek and I remained. I expected him to be angry, to tell me I was insubordinate or unprofessional. Instead, he said, "How long have you been tracking the meetings?" 6 months. And you never said anything. I didn't think you'd listen. I probably wouldn't have. Not until everyone else agreed with you. He closed his laptop. I'm not good at this, he admitted. Managing, I mean. I was promoted because I was a good individual contributor, but nobody taught me how to actually lead people. So I did what I saw other managers do. Meetings, agendas, corporate language. I thought that's what made someone a good manager. It's what makes someone a performative manager. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. Yeah, I guess it is. For what it's worth, I said. Admitting it doesn't work is harder than pretending it does. Is it though? Because pretending was exhausting. We both left Conference Room B for what turned out to be the last time as a regular weekly thing. That was 3 months ago. Here's what happened since. Derek sends a weekly update document every Monday. Takes him maybe 20 minutes to write. Takes us maybe 5 minutes to read. We learn more from that 5-minute document than we ever did from 2-hour meetings. When there's an actual decision to make, Derek schedules a focused meeting. Only the people who need to be there. 30 minutes max. We've had 4 of these meetings in 3 months. All 4 led to actual decisions and action. We eliminated 6 other recurring meetings using the same principle. If it can be a document, make it a document. If it needs discussion, make it focused and brief. If it's not leading to action, stop doing it. I got 15 hours a week back. 15 hours I now spend doing actual work. My productivity has never been higher. Not because I'm working harder. Because I'm actually working instead of sitting in conference rooms. The entire team is more productive. Morale is better. People seem less exhausted. Even Derek seems happier. Like a weight has been lifted. But here's the interesting thing. Upper management noticed. Not because our team complained about having fewer meetings, but because our output increased dramatically. Projects that used to take months now take weeks. Because we're not spending half our time in conference rooms. Other teams started asking how we were getting so much done. Derek told them the truth. We stopped having pointless meetings. Some managers were horrified. But how do you maintain communication? How do you ensure alignment? How do you build team cohesion? Derek's answer, we communicate when we need to communicate. We align around actual work. And team cohesion happens when people aren't exhausted from sitting in conference rooms. 2 other teams have adopted our approach. 3 more are considering it. There's actual conversation happening at management level about meeting culture. Whether meetings serve the company or just make managers feel important. Whether we're optimizing for productivity or performance. Whether tradition is a good enough reason to keep doing something. It's not a revolution. Most of the company still operates the old way. Conference rooms are still full of people nodding at PowerPoints. Action items are still getting pushed to next week indefinitely. Managers are still confusing talking about work with doing work. But our team is different now, and a few other teams are different. And maybe slowly that will spread, or maybe it won't. Maybe the default state of corporate life is pointless meetings. Maybe the system is too entrenched to change. Maybe we just got lucky with a manager willing to try something different. I don't know. What I do know is this. That Monday when I finally said what everyone was thinking, that wasn't bravery. That was just exhaustion. I was too tired to keep pretending. Too tired to keep playing along. Too tired to sit through one more meeting that would change nothing. And it turned out everyone else was too. We were all exhausted from the performance. All waiting for someone to say the emperor has no clothes. All ready for something to actually change. We just needed permission to admit it. And once one person said it, everyone else could too. That's the thing about collective delusions. They only work as long as everyone plays along. The moment someone breaks the spell, it all falls apart. I'm writing this letter for anyone sitting in a conference room right now. Anyone watching the clock waiting for the meeting to end. Anyone who knows, absolutely knows that this is pointless. You're not wrong. It is pointless. And everyone else probably knows it too. They're just waiting for someone to say it. Maybe that someone is you. I'm not saying you should blow up your next meeting. That could go badly depending on your manager and your company culture. But maybe you could start small. Track what meetings actually accomplish versus what they cost. Suggest alternatives for the ones that don't. Ask questions like, what decision are we trying to make here? Propose experiments like, what if we try to document instead? Plant seeds. Create permission for honesty. Make space for someone to admit the meeting isn't working. Because once someone admits it, everything can change. Or nothing can change, and you'll know it's time to find a different team or company. Either way, you'll know. You won't be stuck in uncertainty, wondering if you're the only one who sees it. The meeting that changed nothing can become the meeting that changed everything. But only if someone is willing to say out loud what everyone's thinking. Maybe that someone is you. Sincerely, someone who used to spend 15 hours a week in conference room B. That was our second story tonight. The meeting that changed nothing until it changed everything. Our letter writer did something most of us are afraid to do. They said out loud what everyone was thinking. They broke the collective delusion. And it turned out everyone was ready for someone to say it. Here's what's powerful about that story. Change didn't happen because of one brave person. It happened because everyone was exhausted. Everyone was done pretending. They just needed permission to admit it. And once one person gave that permission, everyone else could too. That's how most workplace change actually happens. Not through grand gestures or dramatic confrontations, but through honesty. Through someone finally saying, this isn't working, and everyone else saying, thank God I thought it was just me. If you're in a pointless meeting right now, you're probably not alone in knowing it's pointless. Everyone else probably knows too. They're just waiting for permission to say it. Maybe you could be the one who gives that permission. Or maybe you can't, and that's okay too. Not every workplace is ready for honesty. Not every manager is like Derek. But you can still track what's working and what's not. You can still ask yourself if this is how you want to spend your time. And if the answer is no, you can start looking for somewhere better. Somewhere that values your actual work over your performance in meetings. They exist. Our letter writer found one, or rather, created one. You can too. That's all for tonight's radio theater. 2 stories about work. One about a window and remembered dreams. One about a meeting and the courage to be honest. Both about finding ways to stay real in systems that reward performance. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing these moments with me. If you enjoyed tonight's stories, please subscribe and leave a like. It helps more people find radio theater. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And maybe tomorrow take 12 minutes to do something you love. Or say what everyone's thinking in your next meeting. Good night.